Hello and welcome to the Gitex Tech Waves podcast, bringing you the latest trends and innovations in the shifting tides of tech worldwide. Now, I'm Georgia Tolley, and today we're welcoming into the studio Kalle Björn. He is Senior Director of Systems Engineering at Fortinet. Now, they are a global leader of cybersecurity solutions and services. They're headquartered in the United States, but they have operations all over the world. And Fortinet is one of our prestigious exhibitors at Gitex Global 2024. Of course, the world's largest tech show, taking place from the 14th to the 18th of October at the Dubai World Trade Center, right here in the UAE. Now, Kalle, our special guest today, has an extensive career in cybersecurity and also security systems for global enterprises around the world. He's worked in Finland, Switzerland, China, and the Middle East. And today we're looking forward to getting a sense of the trends that are shaping the future of this industry. Now, Kalle, it is a great pleasure to have you join us on the show.
Thank you very much for the invite. It's really a pleasure to be here. Looking forward for the session today.
Right, let's start this conversation with the trending topic of the year. It is, of course, artificial intelligence. Fortinet has actually recently announced an agreement to acquire the cloud security firm Lacework. Now, it is a significant consolidation deal for the whole cybersecurity industry. It creates one of the most comprehensive, full-stack AI cloud-driven security platforms that's available from a single vendor. So, you guys were already a big player. It makes you an even bigger player. What are you actually hoping to achieve out of this deal?
So for us, this is an addition to the existing portfolio of the products that we already carry. It's going to complement and build this sort of an umbrella covering multiple different public cloud platforms, offering our customers a solution that will definitely make the actual work securing the environments a lot easier, backed by artificial intelligence and machine learning.
Okay, so how important is this integration of artificial intelligence into cloud security systems today?
It's quite important. It's really going to help the administrators on their day-to-day work. We have customers that have multiple different platforms in use purely for redundancy purposes and ensuring that if one of the hyperscalers has a potential issue, potentially the services don't go down because they are running also on other hyperscalers. Now, for us, what the AI really does is it gives a better view of what the alerts are, what the risks are related to any events that are coming from those environments. It sort of gives a guidance to the administrators of what would be the best actions to take and how to respond to various different issues that we identify within the deployments.
So is that sort of data processing, or is it more complicated than that?
No, it's looking at from every perspective. So looking effectively activities that take place within the cloud, what users are doing, as well as what type of code is actually residing in the cloud, and validating that there's no potential threats there. Okay,
let's zoom out a little bit. How positive an impact do you think artificial intelligence is going to have on the cybersecurity industry overall?
So AI, machine learning, it's been used now already for quite some time. So from Fortinet's perspective, we've been utilizing this since 2016 already for various different things. And the idea really is it's not necessarily going to replace people immediately. Maybe in the future, who knows? Hopefully not. But what it really does, it makes the administrator's life easier. The whole purpose of AI is to simplify things. Instead of us going through millions and millions of events, for example, that we receive from the environments that we are supposed to secure, you have machine learning systems, AI systems that identify which ones are the critical ones that need to have somebody actually looking at them. I believe that will have a really positive impact overall on the security. But there is also maybe a bit of a negative side because the same AI systems can be used by bad actors. So there's potentially a risk that organizations will have a potentially larger possibility of getting breached because the bad actors that are targeting them are also utilizing similar systems that we're using to defend them.
Okay, it is almost certainly going to be more expensive to integrate AI. What are the benefits for a company to actually bring those operations in-house, to actually bring them into your systems? Because there will be an outlay first. Do you see an immediate improvement?
In terms of AI, absolutely. If we look at what the benefits of the AI is, it gives more accurate view of what's happening. It also helps us, we're humans at the end, when we do those mistakes. It definitely helps us to remind that maybe there was an activity that we've forgotten to do. Maybe there is a potential error that the administrators were about to input into the system. So it's potentially more expensive in terms of the initial investment. But if we look at the cost of the mistakes that, for example, we might potentially do, that balances it out definitely.
I want to go back to those bad actors that you mentioned earlier. Is there always this sense of catch-up for a cybersecurity firm, or do you feel like you have the lead on them most of the time?
Well, if there was no catch-up, I could say environments can be secured 100%.
Okay.
But that's not a fact. It's not something that we can ever achieve. So there definitely is this catch-up game where you have bad actors that potentially discover new vulnerabilities, new ways to exploit them, and we have to respond to them. But on the other side as well, a lot of the cybersecurity organizations, such as Fortinet, we do our own research as well. So we also discover these potential vulnerabilities, and we work with other vendors to fix them and mitigate them before we announce anything to the market. So it's a catch-up game always.
Let's talk about those vulnerabilities, because I'm going to put you on the spot slightly here.
Sure.
What would you say are the top 5? You can go to 6 if you want, but the top 5 cybersecurity concerns for businesses specifically in this region. And of course, many of them are global, so it's going to be representative.
So one of the things that really happened during the COVID was that when we went working from office, moved into homes, the environments changed for any organization, and they had to find ways to secure different solutions that they had built. A lot of the times there was no solutions, and that actually led into organizations companies that were founded to develop a specific fix for a specific problem. Now, we had this explosion of various different cybersecurity companies over the past few years, and what we see is that these products that have been launched fix a very specific problem at a very specific location. And when organizations identify that we have this problem and this is the product that we need to purchase to deploy it and to fix this and mitigate this issue that we have, we ended up with 10, 20, 30, 40 products maybe in the environment. And that, on the other side, is a problem for an organization to manage it. You need people to operate them. You need people to be trained to be able to manage the systems. And if we look at the complexities in the environments that we see today, there's a massive skill shortage as well on the market. So organizations really should look at ways of consolidating the solutions, finding a platform solution, something that sort of works together as an overall platform covering the entire environment, not necessarily from 20, 30, 40 different vendors, but potentially utilizing single vendor products on most of the solutions that they need to deploy. This usually ends up maybe in an optimal situation, 2 or 3 vendors that exist in that environment. And when you have a limited number of these vendors, there's a higher chance that the communication between the different products is much more integrated. And that is a huge benefit for any organization, because when you start sharing threat intelligence inside your organization between different products, different departments, that will definitely make your life simpler. Plus, you can start looking at automating things. So the automation definitely helps responding a lot faster into any kind of a threat that might be touching that organization. Plus, when we start automation, we can then go back into what we discussed earlier, which is the artificial intelligence. So those automation decisions, maybe today they need to be done by a person, but when we look into the future, perhaps we can start talking about self-healing networks where we have just administrators being notified that, hey, there was a potential problem that was mitigated by doing these changes. The decision was done by the AI system that seemed to remedy the potential problems, and nothing ever came out of it. So everything is good. So this allows the administrators to, spend the evening with the family instead of running back to the office to fix things.
I'm kind of imagining it a bit like a COVID patchwork quilt, where everyone just brought in their patches and then tried to put them together. And now you need to unstitch it so that you can have an umbrella
This is
duvet cover.
Yeah, this is exactly what it was. And at the end, for organizations to manage it, it becomes really, really expensive. And we've seen some cases where products that exist in the environment, they form these sort of a silos. So they don't talk to each other, which is...
Because they're competitors?
Potentially because of that, or because there was never any integration that was developed even.
Okay.
And that's what we really want to see. We want to see this integration between different products, whether it's our competitors and our products or complementary products. But that integration between different solutions, creating this sort of a security fabric, that's what really helps organizations to protect their environments. And what's even worse is we've seen some cases where it's not just the products that don't talk to each other, but sometimes you have teams that manage these products that for some reason they don't talk to each other even.
So is that a global issue, or is it specific to this region? And if it's not specific to this region, do we have specific issues for our region, for the Middle East?
I would say it's definitely a global thing, and maybe a little bit more relevant here as well, because in terms of Middle East, what we see a lot of the early user adoption here happening. So when there were new products, new solutions that came to the market, a lot of the organizations here were willing to and interested to try them out.
It's that kind of ambitious, innovative, entrepreneurial spirit that might actually end you up with a bit of a patchwork that now needs to be unpicked. Okay, that all sounds pretty daunting, to be honest. So let's talk about solutions. What sort of effective cybersecurity strategies would you recommend to business owners here who are listening to this podcast right now? Okay.
So one of the things when you're considering the overall security, the fabric that I mentioned earlier, so building up a platform of multiple different solutions that work together. Gartner, for example, calls this cybersecurity mesh architecture, CSMA. The idea there really is to have this integrated platform that is easier to manage. It doesn't necessarily mean that many. It doesn't necessarily need that many people to operate it. You have a single management system that gives you an overview of everything that's happening in the environment. You don't have to train people for 10, 12, 30 different products. So that is definitely one of the priorities that I would advise. The other thing is what we see a lot of happening now is the managed service providers. So instead of actually organizations purchasing the solutions themselves, deploying themselves, and then managing and operating themselves, we have a lot of organizations that have basically created their business to manage these solutions on behalf of the customers. So you have organizations that provide 24/7 solutions to operate and manage these products within the customer premises, or maybe hosting them even in the cloud.
So you can essentially hire somebody in to sort it out for you?
Absolutely.
And is it difficult to... Well, is it both difficult and expensive to bring either the mesh system in or the consultancy, the firm that will sort it out for you?
So it really depends on the requirements every customer has. So if we look at customers, pretty much every case is a unique case. But there are many, many situations where maybe the managed services are a better and a cheaper option as well, especially for smaller businesses, startups. That makes absolutely sense. Instead of hiring multiple people, you have a fixed fee that you pay every month, and you get a service that you have visibility and access to. And in worst crisis situations, there's a team backing you up. If something happens, you can call them up to assist and help.
I'm going to throw another buzzword into the conversation. IoT, Internet of Things.
Yep.
My goodness me, it sort of seems to have slightly fallen out of favour now, and now everyone just talks about artificial intelligence. But realistically, the Internet of Things is spreading, are there concerns that could lead to more cybersecurity gaps?
Yes, and we've seen it clearly as well happening in the past. We have IoT, the whole idea is really to companies to optimize things, to have better visibility into what happens within their organization, maybe get a better understanding of potential any changes that need to be done. The issue we see with the IoT devices is that we're talking about high volumes, large number of devices normally. And organizations that actually manufacture these devices, we've got some examples where when there is a vulnerability discovered within the system, the IoT device, the manufacturer decides that it is too expensive for me to fix it. So instead of fixing it, I will just release another version of it. And then you have potentially all these devices on the market that are vulnerable, that could be compromised and utilized for various different purposes by the bad actors. And when we talk about high volumes, we've had cases, for example, users with their home routers being compromised. These could be formed to create what you would call a botnet, effectively a swarm of computer devices that could be used for various different purposes by the attacker. So you have somebody sitting on top of the swarm, let's say, of devices that could control them, for example, to initiate a denial of service attack, so sending large volumes of data to one target just to bring the service down. And it's easy for the attackers because normally these type of IoT devices, there's huge volumes of them. And if you can compromise one of them, that same exploit probably is also usable against all the other devices that haven't been patched.
So you're imagining literally thousands of routers, potentially thousands of CCTV cameras, thousands of, I mean, I don't want to say the brand, but, you know, the companies that control your central heating and your air conditioning, those ones as well.
Any of these, it is at the end computer devices.
Okay.
And a lot of the times they're connected to the networks purely because we want to see what's happening. If you have your home thermostat, you want to maybe set the thermostat to be cooling 10, 15 minutes before you reach home.
Yeah.
So it has to be connected to the internet. And any of these internet-connected devices, it's just another potential entry point for a bad actor to gain access to the network.
Would you include cars in that?
Yes, absolutely. And there has been already many, many years ago even examples of attacks where you've had people that were able to actually compromise and access the vehicle systems remotely while driving next to the car. It's something that is a critical situation because we're no longer talking about maybe a web server that's not available or a bank website that you cannot access because there's a denial of service attack or a website that's defaced. Now we're talking about risk to human life, maybe injuries. So it is extremely important that these kind of mobility systems are well protected and secured from any kind of external communications.
It's interesting, you know, that hasn't gone into the news headlines yet. People haven't started worrying about car control or the car computer in quite the same way as they have, for example, servers or, you know, computer hacks or your phone being hacked, for example.
And if we look at the sort of the normal life that we live, there's a lot of systems that actually work behind a lot of things that we don't normally even realize, whether it's traffic lights or airplanes or
air traffic control.
Multiple things that if they fail for some reason, the end results are going to be drastic.
Well, that's a positive thought. But that's where you guys come into the picture, which is brilliant. And it is now obviously widely acknowledged by any business, any CEO worth his salt that, you know, you need to invest and you need to invest heavily in cybersecurity. But clearly, companies are still getting it wrong because it's still happening. And we hear various headlines about, for example, even big hospitals, even big factories being held to ransom effectively because they've been hacked. What are they getting wrong? Like, you would have thought that if they're spending millions of dollars that they should get it right. What are the recurring challenges in this field?
So if we look at it, what's the main reason why the bad actors do what they do? I mean, the biggest chunk of the attacks is made because of they want to make some money.
Yeah.
There's
ransomware.
Ransomware.
Well, ransom.
There's easy ways to do it, and there's the difficult ways to do it. Everybody wants to do it easy, right? And the ransomware is probably the most easiest way to make some money as a bad actor. At the end, we target the bad actors target people. We're the ones that are the targets, and
we're the soft underbelly.
We make mistakes.
Yeah,
and it's as simple as maybe sending an email. And user clicking the mail, and that basically gives the attacker access into the environment, effectively maybe encrypting a whole bunch of workstations, servers, etc. And then it's just a matter of whether the company has a policy to pay or to attempt to recover. And that's something that we recommend from our side always, to make sure that any organization has a policy in place. You don't want to be thinking whether we want to pay or not after the attack has hit you. You want to have a policy in place that has clear steps that if this thing happens, if we get compromised, if ransomware hits our network, what is the process? What do we follow? Do we consider paying the attacker, or do we just wipe everything clean and hope that we have backups where we can restore the data from?
In your experience, what do CEOs tend to pick? Do they tend to pay? Or do they tend to... If
we read the news, there's a lot of cases where large organizations have made the payments, but there are also organizations that refuse to pay. And if organizations have those backups in place and the backups are not compromised, backups are not encrypted, it probably will take some time, but it is a viable solution to just restore the backups. The only concern is obviously, how did this thing happen in the first place? You don't want to restore your backups just to find out that the attacker used, again, the same entry point to your network and did everything again. Your data is again encrypted. So before doing the before restoring the data, you need to figure out how they got in and basically block those entry points.
I'm going to come back to cost again, because I'm sure that lots of people listening to this podcast don't have hugely deep pockets. Like, I'm not presuming that everyone listening here is running a massive conglomerate and they can afford millions of dollars on cybersecurity. And every company, from the very smallest level upwards, needs to have some sort of protection on their systems. Is it possible to do it on a budget? Is it possible to be cyber secure on a budget?
So there are certain solutions that every organization definitely should have, whether it's related to remote access, protecting the perimeter, protecting the core of the networks. But when it comes to deploying those solutions, we talked about a little bit about the managed services. So that's definitely helpful because it is a fixed cost. So you know exactly how much it's going to cost. You don't have necessarily any surprises of somebody taking a leave for 1 month and then you're realizing that, hey, we don't have a replacement for this person. We need to hire a second person. Or if somebody gets sick, or the person that's responsible for your environment resigns. How do you then cope with that? You need to find a replacement, make sure they're trained. When it's a managed service, it's fairly simple because the organization that you pay for will take care of all of those responsibilities. Obviously, you lose a little bit of a control there because those devices are no longer necessarily owned by you. You're just paying for a monthly fee for somebody to come and operate them and deploy them in your environment. But especially when you're a little bit smaller business, that's a viable option. And we've worked, for example, with the telecom operators across the entire Middle East here, where we are working together with them offering services that are actually based on our solutions as well. So that's a great option. The other thing is really the consolidation, because when you start looking at a sort of a package of solutions, a suite of solutions from one vendor, you normally get a little bit of a discount on the prices. You have these sort of a bundle offers that help you with the cost as well.
Really interesting. I suppose you can't put a price on peace of mind as well. That's a huge factor. Now, we are fast approaching the 44th edition of Gitex. That's Gitex 2024, of course. Now, what are you actually expecting from this year's edition? I imagine that you're a regular visitor. Obviously, I know you've had a stand for many years. What's going to be your sort of go-to this year? What are you excited about?
So for us, this is definitely going to be the biggest Gitex ever.
Okay.
We are looking at having 2 separate booths at the event. And the focus for us really is around our key pillars. So we're talking about secure networking, so effectively securing the physical networks of our customers, whether they're within the cloud or within their own traditional data centers, securing the perimeter as well as the remote users. We're looking at SASE, which is the secure access service edge, effectively protecting the user security regardless of the location where they are. Users that work from home, users that travel, they connect from remote locations, and taking the security from maybe not necessarily deploying it in the traditional location of the corporate networks, but rather shifting it a bit towards the cloud, securing the connections in the cloud, because a lot of the data now resides in the cloud as well. Users and organizations basically shifted some of their services from the traditional data centers into the cloud because everybody was working from home, they were working remote. There was no need to basically allow everybody to connect back to the traditional data center, which was maybe a single location within the organization's headquarters, but rather to allow them to connect to the cloud that was distributed. Closest cloud was always the fastest option as well in terms of performance. And securing these type of connections. So that's where we come in play. And then the last pillar, the third pillar, is really focusing on what we call SecOps. So security operations. We're talking about a lot of automation, having our tools that identify various different threats as they happen based on the visibility in the network, and then react to those automatically. What we can create is playbooks that allow users to sort of save a lot of the regular admin tasks instead of having them done by humans.
It feels like an exciting year. I know that we say this every year about Gitex. You know, this is going to be the year of artificial intelligence. This is going to be the year of this. This is going to be the year of that. But do you think we've actually taken a sort of step change in the last 12 months, a step forward?
Absolutely. So I think the AI, people have been talking about it for quite a while.
They have. 2016, you said at the start of the interview.
Exactly. And yes. it was really the sort of a machine learning where things have started from, and the development is continuous. And even from our side now, we have started to deploy the generative AI within our own products as well. So that is something that will be available on several of our different solutions, and the development will just go forward, obviously. So I think this is going to be a very exciting year, and we'll definitely see something new in Gitex.
Kalle, thank you so much. What an interesting conversation we've had. I really appreciate your insights on cybersecurity. Thank you for joining us on the Gitex Tech Waves podcast. It's been a great pleasure to have you. And of course, if you're curious to learn more about Fortinet solutions, don't forget to check out their stand at Gitex Global 2024, which is taking place from the 14th to the 18th of October at DWTC. Stay tuned for more updates and register at gitex.com. And of course, you can subscribe and follow the event social media at Gitex Global. I'll see you there.